Hello everybody, here's your day 4 video. You're not going to get to these in class, so it's a good idea to actually watch this and pay attention. This is from chapter 11, so it's not anything crazy new, and it's not too far removed from when we learned it, so it shouldn't be anything absolutely required to watch, but it's always a nice refresher. Okay, so anyway, starting off with two-way tables. There will be two-way tables on your final, so make sure you follow along. Okay, so number one here, using this two-way table, how many people do not like snowmobiles but like skateboards? Okay, so like skateboards is this column. Do not like snowmobiles is this row. So where those intersect is right here, meaning there are 45 people that do not like snowmobiles but do like skateboards. Now, what percentage of people do not like skateboards? Okay, so that is only referring to this column. So percentage of people requires all of the people that don't like skateboards, 35, and I'm going to divide that by the total number of people in the survey. So I'm going to divide that by 160. So using my calculator, 35 divided by 160 is going to give me 0.21875. Now, usually you're going to make this a percentage, so I move the decimal point 2 places, and that makes this 21.9% of people. Now, what is the percentage of people who like snowmobiles but do not like skateboards? Okay, so the people that like snowmobiles are 80 and 25, and the people that do not like skateboards is right here. Percentage of people out of 160 is 25 this time out of 160. And 25 divided by 160 is going to give me 0.15625. Moving that decimal point 2 places right here. So it looks like I get approximately 15.6%. And there you have it. Just some simple percentages from that two-way table. And there's page 1. Page 2, we're going to be filling out this two-way table using some simple arithmetic and logic. Starting off with the boys column. There are 3 boys in Newcastle and 7 boys in Sunderland, so that leaves a total of 10 boys surveyed. Now that allows us to find the total number of people surveyed with this 10 and 20, leaving me with 30. I can also find the Sunderland row. 7 plus 6 is going to give me 13. And to figure out this girls Newcastle cell, I'm going to take 20 minus 6 to give me 14. Then adding 3 plus 14 gives me 17, and I have my table filled out. Now, how many girls like Newcastle? Number of girls that like Newcastle is pretty simple. It's just girls, Newcastle cell, and you follow that over, and you find out 14 of them like Newcastle. How many people were surveyed? That's the total number of people surveyed, which is 30. What percentage of boys chose Sunderland? Now, this one's tricky because it's only talking about the boys. Percentage of the boys that chose Sunderland. So Sunderland of the boys is 7, and there were 10 boys surveyed total, which is, well, not approximately. This one's exact, unlike the last slide. I get 0.7. Now, if I move this decimal point 2 places, that gives me a percentage of 70%. Now, what percentage of girls were surveyed? Now, honestly, this one's pretty straightforward. The girls that were surveyed is 20, and there are 30 total, so I'm assuming that this is asking for 20 out of 30, which gives you about 0.67, which is 67%. So what percentage of those surveyed were girls? Qualitative versus quantitative. Remember, qualitative is usually going to be something with a label, or some sort of like descriptor or category or something like that. Quantitative is going to be some sort of number measurement. So a gummy worm increased by 2 inches. That's going to be quantitative. There were 4 dogs in the group. This also is a measurement. You're just counting the number of dogs, which is quantitative. The dogs are small. That's a descriptor. So this one is qualitative. The sample contained 3 different types of bacteria. I would identify this one as quantitative because you are just counting types. You're labeling, or sorry, it's a number of types. Aches and pains, this would be qualitative. Patient had a temperature of 1 or 2 degrees. That's a measurement, so this is quantitative. Chimp identified 12 pictures correctly. This is quantitative because that is a count. The parrots range from dark green to bright red. This is qualitative. And the balloon increased in size from 5 inches to 8 inches around. This is quantitative because, again, that is a measurement. So there you have it, qualitative versus quantitative. And we're going on to the next page. Best graph for following data. Now, there are a variety of options here that could make this section tricky. Now, the most important part of this is you're trying to figure out which one would be most appropriate. Now, because you're comparing 2 different variables over an amount of time, there are 2 options here. Because it's a small amount of time, I would actually use a scatter plot because I can graph the men on one axis and the women on one axis and compare their location accordingly. Now, some might argue that you could use a line graph and actually have a double line graph, but it would have to be a double line graph so we could differentiate between the men and the women in their lines. So that's why I would go with scatter plot. Now, could you argue some stuff? Yes, but in this situation, you're trying to figure out which one would be most appropriate. My choice is scatter plot. Now, for this one, the table shows the kind of pets that the students have in class. What type of graph would be most appropriate for this data? Now, because it's talking frequency and you're splitting this into categories, my immediate assumption is that the best one to use would be bar graph. Okay, because I can easily graph a bar of 18 units, 5 units, 23 units, etc., and I could easily have a single bar for each of the pets. That's why it's a good idea to go with bar graph. Now for this last one, the table shows the number of cars sold in a week. Which type of graph is most appropriate for the data? Color of car, you have red, white, orange, and blue. This again tells me bar graph because you have categories, you have colors of cars that you're kind of splitting up. So again, because they're categories, because then you identify number, that's why I would go with bar graph. So again, appropriate, most appropriate, best, etc., you just have to choose the one that's most fitting. So that's all I got for you today. Again, this is pretty recent material, so it shouldn't be anything crazy out of line to expect to see on the final exam. There are no additional worksheet problems, but there are quizzes, assignments on Google Classroom that would be in your best interest to go ahead and complete for extra practice. As always, make sure you come see me with any questions you guys might have, and good luck in your preparation. Thanks.